You know, life is tough as a goblin. Dodging bullets on the way to work, racist shopkeeps attacking me on sight. My wife is leaving me. But let me tell you, I'm a star ascendant. I'm out here hustling, grinding. I'm on that green mail grind set. Consider this a lesson. I am Socrates, and you bitches are Plato. In the immortal words of Ice Cube, you are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Today, I'll be showing you Barony, a niche title on Steam that has been my latest hyperfixation for a matter of weeks now. It has everything you could ever want in an RPG. Varied weapons, rats, cheese, racism, bite inflation, succubi, agents of Satan, and even sunglasses. This game is perhaps the closest digital simulation of methamphetamine there is on the Steam store, and I highly recommend you play it. If you are a masochist, that is. Yes, this game is not easy. It does not pull any punches, and given the opportunity will completely and utterly fuck you every which way until your dopamine receptors have been ground to protein powder. Believe me though, I am the guru here. I have walked the Eightfold Path and discovered the road to Samsara. So listen up, kids. You're gonna go from being a novice adventurer to being a battle-hardened schizophrenic, capable of defeating even the most vaccinated of glowies.
Then I go.
Before we can start grinding, you must first create a character. To create your character, you must first do a Michael Jackson and choose your race. There's quite a few here, and only a few are worth mentioning. Just know that certain races jive better with different classes, like skeletons being conjurers, succubi being sex workers, and automatons being Indian tech support. Next, you must choose one of 21 classes. There are the RPG staples, such as warrior, wizard, rogue, etc., but then there are the odd ones, such as brewer and joker for all you pick-me girls. They are locked behind DLC, allowing you to style on your broke-ass friends when you show them the horrors of the Bone Zone. To simplify the explanation, I've crafted this scientific and peer-reviewed chart to help you determine which one is the right choice for you. Over here we have the melee crowd, perfect for chuds who inject TRT because they lack maternal attention. They typically have to fight at the same rhythm as the enemies in the game, so it more or less becomes a turn-based RPG with real-time mechanics. Usually having a low intelligence skill, these troglodytes can't use sophisticated combat methods such as using magic or running away. They simply hit and then block. When their shield breaks, they wildly flail their weapon like my ex-wife after 3 glasses of Merlot, hoping to kill whatever is in front of them. When they inevitably die, they will then blame the healer for not doing their job. Such is the way of the Cro-Magnon. Next are the ranged and stealth-oriented classes. While the melee classes are running about causing all sorts of ballyhoo, these classes take things a bit slower, a bit more cautiously, and generally pussying out if a troll decides that your chocolate starfish looks like the perfect location for his foot. Want to shoot things from far away? Pick the hunter. Want to LARP as an assassin and kill everything with a single stealth attack? Pick the ninja. Want to be a disgusting, grifting, wallet-teleporting gypsy? Pick the rogue. Basically, all these classes are bitch-made and should only be played by the most anxious of individuals. Then we have the magic users. They are physically, biologically, and psychologically evolved humanoids bearing the blessing of Janna. These classes let you stand somewhat evenly to the game's difficulty curve because they're fucking broken. Kind of. Okay, let's say there's a locked chest in front of you, but you don't have a lockpick. What do? Well, you use your spell of opening you got 3 levels ago and open that bitch up only to find 2 moldy cheeses, a cracked gem, and a tin can.
Wonderful.
While stuck in your way, use your spell of dig and go right on through. Goblins blocking your path, pelt them with incantations of hate crime until they go away. These classes truly allow you to ball on the ops while not completely endangering your life from a single mistake. However, they do take a little more finesse to play properly. And finally, we have the outliers. These classes don't lean towards any of the previously mentioned archetypes in particular, but they do have something that makes them completely unique. These classes are a bit harder than the others, requiring more than the standard Barony player's IQ of 68 to play properly. I don't recommend new players jump into their first game with these, as it requires a galaxy brain to understand the fine mechanics of turning into a rat. Now I've told you about each of the groups of classes, so I'll give a short overview of each one individually. Each class fits into its own niche, with some of them being more situational than others. This is the dedicated noob class. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They can use pretty much any piece of equipment effectively, and they also have a pretty respectable block skill. Barbarians are warriors with a little chest hair. They follow the philosophy of killing the enemy before it gets a chance to deal damage. They rather lackluster block skill but greatly increased strength. You'll be enjoying yourself until you realize the fact that without magic protection gear, you are fucked late game. Monks fit into a weird niche. They use unarmed attacks and rely heavily on shields and armor. They also have some decent magic potential. I struggle to find a combat situation where playing the monk is preferable to most other classes. I'd only run this guy if you like unarmed combat, otherwise I'd suggest you try the next class out. The Cleric is the definitive tank class with magic potential, but in all honesty, you can do pretty much anything with this class. They have great starting gear and pretty well-rounded skills. The Wanderer is weird. They're supposed to be a stealthy and ranged class, but their skills and starting equipment also make them suited to survival and alchemy. This class is actually pretty good in multiplayer as he carries one of the most important and rare pieces of equipment in the game, a can opener. If you're tired of hearing your friends bitch about food shortages like it's the Netherlands in 2022, just throw cans of Campbell's at him until he shuts up. The Rogue is a fairly interesting class. It plays more of a thief role with high tinkering skill, allowing the Rogue to unlock pretty much any lock and also make use of the toolbox. They lack pretty severely in combat options though. I wouldn't recommend playing this class in single player. It gets outclassed by a lot of other classes, as any other class with magic has access to unlocking spells, and the next class drastically outshines the Rogue's killing power. Picking the ninja is like playing as a threshing machine. Boasting a whopping 60 starting sword and stealth skill, and a set of speed boots, you become the object of many insectoids' nightmares. The Sexton is what the Rogue wishes it was. The main upside to this class is its magic capability. It's the only class to start with the All-Holy opening spell, making the Rogue's tinkering skill look quaint by comparison. You also get a pretty good set of starting equipment and the drippiest hat in the game. Truly, this is the choice of a true gentleman. The Hunter is the obligatory all-ranged class, and it does a pretty good job. If you have a wizard in the party who knows the Conjure Arrow spell, you can deal a very respectable amount of damage. Now we're getting to the good stuff. The Wizard is the quintessential mage class. It doesn't spec into any particular playstyle, but you get the most variety of gameplay. Just make sure your server host turns off friendly fire, or you may find yourself quickly without people to play with. The Healer is precisely what it says on the tin. Make no mistake though, this class is a very good magic skill and can deal great damage given the right spells. It's also a great class for new players to try out in the multiplayer lobbies if they want to be particularly useful for little skill requirements. The Arcanist is effectively a barbarian mixed with wizard. It has shite blocking skill, but good ranged and sword abilities, alongside great spellcasting. This damage output is needed though. If you can't body the enemy within 3 seconds of first contact, you are probably dead. A Conjurer is the closest thing to a necromancer you're gonna get in Barony. Summon a skeleton warrior to play the game for you while you sit around the corner like a little bitch trying to appraise an inevitably cursed amulet. This is mitigated by the fact that your high leadership skills will allow you to recruit many a meat shield. The Mesmer is the gamer girl's choice. With each cast of your staff, more and more pay pigs subscribe to your OnlyFans, fighting to the death in your name for the promise of feet pics. Feet pics they'll never receive. Truly, this is the Lost Goblins generation. The most out-of-place class is definitely the Mechanist, seeing as it's not really good in single or multiplayer. Sure, you can place turrets down to shoot enemies for you, but then you have to worry about it shooting you by accident. And you have to babysit this wretched piece of shit if you want a chance to kill anything. The Punisher is just kind of weird. It gets a whip, which you can't get anywhere else in the game, and starts with some really situational spells. This is made up by the fact that you have 25 in range and axe, so you don't need to use your spells that often. Really not a lot to say here. The Shaman is the gateway drug into illicit furry artwork, as well as truly being one of the best classes for every purpose. It somehow manages to be a better support class than the Healer, somehow, and it makes the sneaky classes cry out of envy. The Brewer allows you to enact your fantasies of brewing moonshine on the go, a sort of alternative to the Healer, being that booze is one of the better types of healing items. Enjoy getting your party addicted to skooma that only you can provide. The ideal choice for vampiric lifters, the Accursed is a better monk that comes with a drawback. You'll start with some unbelievably good stats in both melee and magic, but you are afflicted with a curse that causes you to take damage if you do not feed. Only recommended for people who have previously worked at Spencer's for 2 months or Hot Topic for 3. The Merchant. The secret meta, other than magic, having close ties to the Merchant's Guild gives the Merchant class premium access to the ability of being able to appraise gems from level 1. Being able to appraise items to fund and bankroll your goals of monster loan sharking is invaluable for both single-player and multiplayer bar mitzvahs. The final option, the Joker. Picking this class is similar to picking the Deprived in Dark Souls, in the way that you start with no stats, but this lets you spec into whatever you want. The difference? A ring of levitation and a penchant for tomfoolery. Strangely enough, this class, if played right, can actually be one of the best for speedrunning the game, particularly the Hell route. Now that you've chosen your class, it's time to enter the dungeon. If you haven't starved within 5 minutes, because you can only find cursed cream pies, you will surely be crushed by the Minotaur. What happened? Well, for starters, you didn't change the game flags in the settings. These will affect things such as hunger, PvP damage, and the Minotaur. If you wish to enjoy the game and not be kicked in the balls for not eating regularly, you should change them to look like this. Now you are truly ready to be enlightened by this game's humbling embrace. The Minotaur is a mechanic I only recommend for those who have E621 as a favorited website. Starting the game, you'll be outside the gates of the actual dungeon. A journal will give you some background information on the state of political affairs of the local town. They're not very good, to say the least. Be sure to grab a few torches off the walls for later, you'll need them. Once you enter this door, you'd best be ready because even a rat could be your undoing in this crack house. I'll be going over the dungeon mostly from the perspective of a warrior, because it is a class that most players will pick, being that it has decent stats overall, and is one of the better choices for the single-player experience. The mines is the first zone in the game, and is the lead deciding factor on if your run will be good or not. The enemies here are your typical flavor of RPG monsters. Skeletons, rats, trolls, and spiders will all be here. A good idea for any class is to try and kill as many rats as you can at first, since they are the weakest enemies. And they drop cheese, which is the fastest item to appraise, making it instrumental in leveling your appraisal skill early on. However, you need to be quick, because you will soon learn the racism these creatures share towards you, they also share towards each other. It is not uncommon to find a skeleton and a rat dueling, only for the skeleton to walk away the victor. Skeletons will also teach you something very important. Whatever armor or weapons you see an enemy using, they will drop it upon death. This can also teach you that sometimes engaging in combat with a stronger opponent is not always the best option. Rarely you will also run across a gnome wandering through the maze. Do not be fooled by their whimsical appearance. They are devious creatures and should be either killed on sight or left alone at all costs. They come in 2 varieties, gnomes with pickaxes and gnomes with lightning staves. The latter is much more dangerous, able to educate you on the matter of gnomish politics in 1 or 2 shots. The last and probably rarest enemy in the mines is the succubus, which can only be found by drinking from a blessed fountain. They are strange, greedy creatures that will steal your items and teleport across the map, laughing all along the way. Another thing you will notice in the mines is the random humans walking around getting themselves killed because they refuse to run away from the troll in front of them. You can recruit these NPCs and take advantage of their stupidity by using them as meat shields, and then take their items when they die. Occasionally in the mines, you'll find these spike trap rooms with either a horde of spiders or a single troll. Outside of the rooms, there's 2 levers. One will activate the spikes, the other will open the doors. The only way to tell which does which is to flip them. A good habit for the rooms with trolls is to flip the spike lever twice and then open the gates and kill the troll yourself. The last thing the mines teach you is the existence of mini-boss enemies. These are specially named monsters that, most of the time, drop artifact weapons that are extremely useful. The ones in the mines are Funny Bones, Shellub, Thumpus, and Algernon. The only 2 that drop artifacts are Funny Bones and Shellub, dropping an axe and a sword respectively.
And this should work.
Yeah, why is Johnny East? Pardon me for not rising.
Holy
I thought
shit.
You right.
Look at me. Look at me.
The swamp is where Barony begins to get a little more varied in the things you will encounter. For one, there is now water, and you will learn that crossing it is very slow, unless you have an amulet of Olympic swimming. Then, it is actually faster to traverse the map via the natural canals. The enemies are also different, the primary evildoers being
Goblins.
They have more health than skeletons, and will occasionally have magic staves or even bows with magic arrows. This shows their innate craftiness and how they are a plague on the world. Also newly encountered are ghouls and slimes. Not a lot to say about them, they're just, well, a walking corpse in a pile of toothpaste. Along with the new enemies, the swamp also introduces more interesting puzzles and traps, the most iconic of which being a boulder. Their spawn holes are often placed in deceiving spots that can be tricky to see. This is on purpose, as their boulders will instantly kill anything they touch while rolling. This can be used to your advantage if you can somehow lure an enemy in front of one, but you are more than likely just putting yourself in more danger if a boulder is involved. Make sure to purposefully kill one of your friends with a boulder at least one time. It gives you an achievement for doing so. The last notable thing for the swamp is the two mini-bosses, Coral Grimes and the Potato King. Only the Potato King drops an artifact, that being Sharur the Talking Mace, which will say very interesting things. Big change in scenery here in the Sand Labyrinth. Everything's yellow. I would say this zone is actually kind of easy compared to the jump from mines to swamp, but only if you know what lies within these sandy walls. New trap alert, spike holes on the floor. These ones are special because they don't have levers to prematurely activate them and are often placed in quite evil spots. They are easy to see, but will catch you off guard if you're staring at your map. New liquid alert, lava is introduced here, and it hurts a lot, don't touch it. As for new enemies, they're all bugs. There's scorpions, which sting you, scarabs, which headbutt you, and insectoids, which kill you. It is true the bugmen are the biggest threat. Fortunately, they do not travel in packs and share my hatred for goblins, which are occasionally wandering through Sandland. Oh, and I should mention the insectoids, when pissed off enough, will display their racism by spitting on you. Acid, that is. Not very nice of them. Only two named mini-bosses this time, Scrablag and Ziggy, neither of which drop anything useful, although Ziggy does have magic reflection, so be careful if you fight him. This is where the boys are separated from the men, the alphas from the bitches, and the living from the dead. You thought it was hard in the mines, but oh no, this is where the game starts really trying to kill you. Everywhere you go, there's spells being fired from the walls, some simply doing a little magic damage, some of them putting you to sleep, and some of them reversing your controls. A large host of enemies is represented here. There's returning favorites like goblins, succubi, trolls, and gnomes, but there's a few new ones, and they are very dangerous. One of them is a literal demon. All they do is shoot spells of fire, but they do it a lot, and it still hurts a lot. The other one is rarer, but potentially more dangerous, young vampires. They cast Bloodletting, which not only is one of the best offensive spells in the game, but also has a chance to cause bleeding. New NPC alert, automatons will show up in the ruins, neutral to every race. They're nice for recruiting and subsequently forgetting about in the next 2 minutes. Now you may be thinking, how am I supposed to live with all of these things attacking me at once? Well, a lot of the time, half of the enemies end up killing each other due to the overarching theme of racism throughout this dungeon. You will also encounter the first boss of the game here, Baron Herx, the guy who made everything go to shit. He seems pretty tough at first, but that's only because the one spell he uses is lightning. So if you get hit, you had better log off because it is over for you. However, if you can use a few of your neuron pathways to understand that this is his only spell, you can beat him very easily. After you hurt his feelings a little bit, he'll start summoning imps and demons to get in your way. They honestly aren't that bad either because they both just shoot fire in your general direction. Kill Herx and your journey is over. As an alternate and slightly harder route, instead of blasting Herx's ass, you can find a secret portal in the ruins to go to the underworld. It is, quite frankly, bullshit. You can't even leave the starting room without a method of levitation, and it had best be a reliable one because all of the islands are separated by vast chasms, and it sure would be a shame if your run were to be ended because your potion of levitation ran out and you fell to your demise. There are two new enemies here, the Imp and the Shadow. The Imp isn't too bad, they giggle and shoot fire similar to demons. The difference is they fly and have less health. Shadows, on the other hand, are much more tiresome to deal with. I have had several runs terminated by these fiendish cretins, mainly because I wasn't paying attention and got absolutely ganked. Shadows are awful because they copy your currently equipped weapon and spells. This is especially unfortunate if you have, say, Gungnir, the weapon that pierces all defenses. Yes, quite an issue. There's really only two reasons to want to come here, if you are doing the Hell route or if you want Kirsalakatos. Other than that, just don't even bother. The Shadows make it horrendous and you can just get Kirsalakatos later. Hell is hell, and hell is bad. Very red, strains the eyes, a truly evil area with nothing but demonic enemies, and the introduction of the Goat Men. They are the only source of armor in hell, so if any of yours breaks, you can have some way to replace it. Also introduced here is the Incubus. It is similar to the Succubus, but is uniquely sadistic. They will often teleport after getting hit a few times, however they always teleport behind you or around a corner, so it's not hard to see through their tricks. They also often have cold staves to slow your movement and deal decent magic damage. On top of all that, they'll try to spike your endocrine system with booze, disorienting your camera and making it a bitch to hit them. Their tricks can be deceiving at first, but in time you will learn all of them, and the incubus will be rendered ineffective against your adventuring prowess. Aside from the incubi, hell is home to all the other demonic monsters. Succubi, demons, and imps all call this place home, and they heavily support the Fourth Amendment. Fortunately, by this point, you should be well equipped to handle the area and its boss, Baphomet. The Baphomet fight is a harder alternative to Baron Herx. During the Herx fight, you'll mainly be strafing since he only has the one spell. Baphomet, on the other hand, requires you to actually think about the consequences of your actions. The first attack it will do is a fan of fireballs, very bad at close range, very easy at a distance. The second will be a row of boulders rolling down the arena. These are easy to dodge because there is always a tile between each boulder. You can also avoid the boulders by levitating on the edge of the arena, but if you do, Baphomet will summon imps to pester you. Its last attack is to summon multiple enemies to the arena. These can be demons, imps, or shadows, all of which will act as distractions for the main threat. After Baphomet completes these 3 attacks, it will restart its cycle, doing all 3 of those attacks in that order once more. Once Baphomet is dead, 2 Minotaurs are spawned and a wall explodes, revealing the path out. After a very scary run, you go through the white portal and the game ends.
Big, stupid, ragged ass!
I lied. The journey is not over. You may have saved the town from Herx, but there is another more concerning threat. The 2 archmages of the Mage Guild have gone missing. This does not bode well. You actually get a hint to this in one of the lore books, which I do appreciate. While in Hamlet, you can recruit some more living sacrifices, buy some new items, sell your old ones, and take a little breather. Maybe talk to the locals, enjoy the night sky, I don't know. Unless you're a monster, that is. If you are, you sneak into the inn and are given a safe passage through the sewers that leads straight to the next area. Right before the sewer exit is a mysterious merchant who is willing to do business with monsters such as yourself. I have a feeling we're gonna be good friends. Now we're finally in the home stretch for the actual end of the game, and the difficulty of the last 2 areas reflects that. Compared to all of the previous levels, the Crystal Caverns are significantly more dangerous. They're much larger than most of the levels before, and are packed with malicious goons that want to goon all over you. New trap alert, vertical magic traps. These are more dangerous versions of the wall traps from the ruins, except these are activated by a pressure plate. Then it will spew magic from the ceiling until you step off the pressure plate. Do not be surprised if you're wandering around and not paying attention, and suddenly you've been set on fire. Shame on you. Along with the new trap comes some of the most dangerous enemies in the game. The weakest of this bunch is the Kobold. They are nasty little shits that will often carry steel weapons or shoot fire arrows at you from a safe distance. They don't have a lot of health, but their real strength comes in numbers. For health and safety purposes, I recommend never fighting more than 2 at one time. Next is the Crystal Golem. These fill a similar role as the Trolls did way back in the mines, but these hit a lot harder. And a Crystal Golem, alright?
Oh, damn!
Yeah, they hit hard, man. Oh my fucking god. Oh, I'm dead. Get away from me.
God!
They aren't too terrible because they can be outran, but be very cautious if you attempt to fight them up close. Now, this last enemy is by far one of the worst in the whole game, and I am sure is one of the leading causes of not only cardiac arrest, but also the finale of most endgame runs. The monster in question is the Cockatrice. They can fly, have a ridiculously strong melee attack, cast Stone Blood every few attacks, and to top it all off, have a ginormous health pool. Luckily, they don't show up too often, but when they do, even just one of them is a cause for the whole party's concern. The final area, the last hurrah, and well, fuck, a shadow killed me. The Citadel is the final zone in Barony and decides that before it lets you potentially win, it's gonna take one last shit in your cereal and throw everything it can at you to end your life. All the worst enemies are here: crystal golems, goatmen, shadows, incubi, cockatrices, and vampires. The difficulty is further cemented by the generation of the terrain. The majority of the Citadel consists of 1 tile-wide hallways that lead to small rooms. This makes it difficult to fight anything here or even run away. It could potentially be even worse if you're in multiplayer with friendly fire on, and the wizard isn't paying any fucking attention and burns you alive. There's no new traps here, but there really doesn't need to be. The hallways alone are a trap, leading to many occasions of having monsters on either side of you. The only special NPC here that I know of is Garbad, who doesn't drop anything special. On floor 35, you will fight the final bosses of the game, Orpheus and Eridus. Eridus mainly casts spells, while Orpheus will attempt to shank you with occasional fireballs. Orpheus is a lot easier to manage, since he mostly just charges at you with a crystal sword. It's Eridus you should be worrying about. She most often casts Cold with some magic missiles sprinkled in. She'll also spawn corrupted automatons because it wasn't enough to have to juggle her and Orpheus. No, we need more enemies in the arena. If you can get through all this bullshit nonsense, congratulations, you win. That's it. That's the end. In Barony, there are secret levels, with at least one in each zone, with most of them granting the player access to mystical artifacts. If you want a good run, these secret levels are crucial, so I would highly recommend powering through them. The first is the Gnomish Mines, accessed through a hidden exit in the normal mines. According to the wiki, there are around 24 gnomes and 6 trolls on the map, so obviously this is a very scary place. The sound of
Jibjabjibjibjibjibjab
through the walls will forever haunt your soul after you get lightning shot in your back, sending your ass back to the title screen. The main goal of this level is to get to the shop in the top right corner, flip the lever, then make your way to the bottom right room and grab the Sphinx's Veil, a helmet that grants 8 intelligence and never breaks. Then make a mad dash for the lower left area to get through the exit and keep your spoils. The second secret area is not nearly as stressful as the first. It's simply a long hall with several shops placed within it, allowing for the party to accrue monetary power or to get some new items. The third secret level is the Jungle Temple, accessed through a secret portal in the swamp. Here, there are several trolls and goblins trapped behind iron gates, and a couple of rooms to go through. Toward the back, you'll find the green mystical orb, and when approached, all the trolls are released, which makes leaving quite the ordeal. The fourth secret level is the Haunted Castle. Very basic in its layout, but once you come to this treasure room in the back right room of the castle, you'll find the Oracle's Treads, which mark enemies on the map and never break. When you pick them up, tombstones will rise all along the outer ring of the castle. When these are approached, an enslaved ghoul will rise from each one, blocking your way out and potentially expediting your life. The best solution to this is to have gotten some method of digging and some method of levitation, because you can then break this wall and float on over to the exit. The fifth secret level is an actual puzzle, which most Barony players will not be able to complete because they aren't very smart, to say the least. The puzzle is literally just push all the boulders into the holes on the corners of the map. The hardest part of the puzzle is having the strength stat to actually be able to move them. Once all the boulders are pushed into the holes, the Jinny's Brace will be revealed. These are magical gauntlets that never break and give magic resistance, very helpful in all situations. The sixth secret level is my personal favorite, the Minotaur Maze. This is one of 2 occasions that the Minotaur is guaranteed to spawn, mainly because this is his home, and you are a filthy little thief. You just have to get to the center and grab the red mystical orb, as well as Gungnir, the Spear of Odin, which just so happens to be laying on the floor for your convenience. Getting out of the maze can be a little trickier than getting in, because the Minotaur has probably caught up to you, and is ready to reshape your entire bone structure. You can either try and run past him, which isn't very hard to do, or if you have levitation, you can float to the other side of this gap and get out of the maze a little faster. The next secret exit is just another portal to the underworld, nothing very special. However, the next secret exit will take you to the Mystic Library, where you can find many spellbooks as well as the blue Mystic Orb. Now before we go on to the last 2 secret levels, I need to explain the purpose of the orbs. These are really only useful for the fight against Baron Herx, because when you put them on these pedestals, they each give you a buff, but only for the fight against the Baron. Green gives Dex and Perception, red gives Strength and Constitution, and blue gives Intelligence and Magic Resistance. If you decide to keep them rather than using them for the fight, you can give them to the shady merchant in the sewers of Hamlet, and he will give you a different set of items depending on the orb you give to him. Moving on, the secret level in the Crystal Caves is the Cockatrice Lair. This one is probably the most dangerous because there are special kobolds here that belong to a cult, and a lot of them have magistaffs. The reward for this level is the Dragon's Mail, a chest plate that grants extra health regeneration and can never break. The last secret level is Bram's Castle, located in the Citadel. This is generally regarded by the community as the easiest secret level. It consists of 5 floors, with the top floor holding the boss Bram Kindly, a buffed vampire that is a complete pushover, especially if you have fire-related spells or abilities. The most dangerous part of the castle is probably the 4th floor, which has 4 shadows roaming the halls. The reward for this floor is dropped by Bram, the Wraith's Gown. It is a cloak that grants levitation and extra mana regen and never breaks. It would have been a lot more useful during the early game, but is still appreciated nonetheless.
Manos, ven y trata de golpearme si es que puedes. La clemencia es una opción que tú no tienes. Veo que te estás cansando.
Now we must discuss the combat. At first it may seem a bit clunky. I thought so, which caused me to play Wizard and experience the euphoria that is shooting the green men with fire and watching them burn, because they're too stupid to step into the water that is part of their natural environment. The melee combat is simple, but can be confusing for someone who is new to the game. It is more like playing a typical RPG, but with a little more strategy. Enemies will always attack at a fixed rate, and so the key is to learn the timing of blocking and getting a hit in, then blocking once more. You can also do stealth attacks, which do extra damage, but usually you can only get that one hit in before the enemy retaliates, if they didn't die. The ranged combat is a little easier, but takes much longer. You can get your hands on a slingshot, bow, crossbow, etc., and use it until it breaks. They fire at a fixed rate, but let you put space between yourself and the enemy. Alternatively, there are throwable items like tomahawks, knives, and rocks. These will be taken out of your inventory when you throw them, but you can pick them back up later for further use. I believe they generally do more damage and have more durability, with the trade-off being you must now pick up your serviceable stone to use it again. The most interesting part of the combat is the magic. It is also ranged, but most of it uses mana. If you find a spell book, provided your magic level is high enough, you can read it, memorizing the spell. Now you can cast it at any time, if you have the mana for it. If you equip this spellbook in your offhand, you can cast a spell without memorizing it. This is helpful in two situations. If you don't meet the magic requirement, and if you are a goblin. Goblins cannot memorize spells because their IQ is significantly below average. Do keep in mind, spellbooks still have durability and will burn to ash when used up. You can also use Magistaffs, which let you cast a spell without using mana. So, say I forcefully repossess a lightning staff from a gnome, I can now cast lightning for free until the staff breaks, which they do very quickly. Magistaffs are also very good for leveling your magic and casting levels. If you get a staff of locking or opening, just start spamming it at the nearest wall. This will give you a lot of magic XP and sometimes even lets you level up your character, so it is very much worth it. The last method of combat to talk about is the mechanical gadgets. There's only a few, and most are used by the Mechanist class. The one exception is the bear trap, which can be found as early as the mines. These do a fair amount of damage and prevent anything that steps on them from moving for a short time. They are very good for helping shadows despawn, and can be good for trolls in the early game. All the rest belong to the Mechanist, these being the various traps, dummy bot, noisemaker, gyrobots, and the sentries. These are very straightforward in what they do, so I don't want to talk about them. Before we move on to the real special shit, I gotta talk about this music. It is simply stupendous, incredible. No cap. And that's the T, sis. Who the fuck put that in the script? What the fuck does that even... If you are a fan of dungeon synth, you will absolutely love the tracks this game has to offer. There are many different types of environments represented here, to the point where I think there is something for everyone to enjoy. I'll play small parts of some of the tracks here, just to give you a taste of the tunes you'll hear. Now that we've gone through everything there is to know about the game, I'd like to give the 4 of you that I've convinced to buy it some parting advice that I didn't get to earlier in the video. Always appraise any item you get, and don't equip it until you know that it's not cursed. If your class starts with low appraisal, then kill rats to get cheese, as it appraises faster than any other item. Know when to run away. Sometimes it is best to retreat rather than face an enemy, especially if you don't have a shield or any ranged options. Melee fighters are especially bad at acknowledging this fact. Always try to have backups. You may have a shield, but that bitch is gonna break eventually. It's good practice to always have at least one extra shield for when your current one breaks. Use cursed staves. A magic staff is the one thing that is still safe to use while it's cursed, because as you shoot it, your magic and casting skills will go up, and the staves don't have a lot of durability on them, so once it's burned out, you can just throw it away. Strafe projectiles. I know the mere sight of a gnome with a lightning staff is enough to make one shit bricks, but gnomes have weak forearms and can't lead their shots. Don't take weak enemies for granted. Even when you think you've mastered the game, you are still liable to being gnawed to death by a rat or being mauled by a demon. And with that, I have told you everything you need to know about this hellscape of a game. I highly suggest you buy it, especially during a sale when the 4-pack is only 25 pesos. And if you are thinking the game looks a little, simplistic, the devs have been working on a huge quality of life update titled the Quality of Death update that adds an entirely new HUD, as well as adding new animations and even giving some enemies new attacks. The reason I did not use footage of this update is because as of writing the script, it is still in beta and is prone to being a little more bullshit than usual. This game is a test of patience, it is a test of true companionship, it is a destroyer of one's mental health. It is Barony. Big thanks to the Barony Wiki for being a truly invaluable resource for the creation of this video, and to my good pal Nixon for assisting in the creation of this script, i.e. making it more entertaining. Good night everyone, and don't let the scarabs bite. Alright, now that all the lame people are gone and have clicked off the video, thank you very much for watching through this. I acknowledge that it took a long time to get it done, and I would have had it out sooner, but I was a little delayed in my endeavors. You see, my computer decided to stop functioning 3 times. I'll put some pictures of the repair process on screen. Yeah, first it was the monitor, and then it was the power supply, and then it was the whole ass motherboard, and so I've basically built a whole new computer. If that hadn't happened, I probably would have had this out about a month earlier, but, you know, it is what it is. So, thank you very much for watching through all of this, and, for dealing with the wait between each video. I intend to not let that happen nearly as much. I do have some videos planned, and they won't be scripted reviews like this. They'll probably be a little more improv gameplay type videos. But I do have some of those planned for the near future, and I should be able to get them out quicker because they will take a lot less editing than like this video took. I do want to maybe do some more videos like this. It just depends on how well this is received. But regardless, more content to come, so do stay tuned for that. It may just take a little bit. Okay, bye!